It's the first death of an infant from whooping cough in the region since 1995.
It was a very young baby, the most vulnerable age group for whooping cough pertussis.
The death is a tragic reminder of the serious nature of the disease, which has so far affected more than 740 people in the region this year.
The outbreak in the Hunter is the worst that we have on record, and the outbreak is continuing, although there's some suggestion that it may be starting to abate now.
Babies and infants are the most vulnerable, although anyone can be affected. Immunisation is the most effective way to prevent the disease, but until a full course of vaccinations is received, protection is limited.
The shots are due actually for pertussis at 2, 4, 6, 18 months and a booster at 4 years of age, and not until the whole course has been provided is the child likely to really have maximised their protection against this disease.
Parents are also being warned to keep their young children away from adults who may be suffering from a persistent cough. Tanya Carlisle, NBN News.
Normal pressure hydrocephalus affects the sac of fluid at the centre of the brain, stopping the free flow of blood and eventually causing brain damage. It is also called water on the brain and is often confused with Alzheimer's disease.
This is one of the few diseases that medicine has looked at where the actual treatment has been discovered before the cause. And the problem with that is if you don't know what really causes the disease, you can't actually differentiate what's happening.
Tubes can be inserted into the brain, draining excess fluid into the stomach and reversing the effects of NPH if the procedure is done early enough. It's believed the condition only accounts for 2% of all dementia cases, but the figure may be higher because it is so difficult to diagnose, which also means it's quite possible that many people suffer the effects of dementia when surgery could have prevented it. Radiographer Dr. Grant Bateman has developed a test for NPH which has delivered positive results in a 10-patient research pilot. Now he's hoping for a $50,000 grant to help him do a more thorough study.
To get an actual figure for accuracy, you will need to have 40 or 50 patients to be able to say the percentage that are accurately diagnosed is, this or that.
For a few years now, we've been finding that the name Workers Club does seem to alienate some segments of the market that we're aiming at. Things like conventions, conferences, functions. The new name reflects wider appeal.
I believe we need to have a VFT. I've argued this now for about 4 years, that we need a VFT going north. You'd pick up the Central Coast commuter traffic. 55,000 people a day come down to Sydney from the Central Coast.
Kim Beazley hopes for a victory march after the 2001 election, but Canberra is a long way from Curry. Retired mine workers filled the Workers' Club with Labor voters. He told them Prime Minister Howard is making the rich richer, the poor poorer, and destroying Medicare.
You said to me in Parliament the other day, you're trying to fight a class war. I said, no, I'm responding to one.
Mr Beazley says a Labor government will rebuild Medicare and remove Peter Reith's industrial relations legislation. Peter Reith came in for plenty of stick, but there was one topic that didn't get a run.
Kim, there was nothing about banks in your speech, why not?
Because I only had 20 minutes and we can't cover absolutely everything.
Newcastle's Foreshore Park almost couldn't fit them in. Nearly 200 trucks of all shapes and sizes coming together to promote transport safety. It's an event taken quite seriously, the event led today by a Christian force. Then came the blessing, Father Bird splashing holy water on both vehicles and drivers, a symbol of ultimate protection. And on hand there was also the newly formed Concerned Families of Australian Truckies group, drumming up support for the hard-working drivers.
We're lobbying to try and get these blokes a better rate of pay, therefore more safety. Until they get better rates of pay, they can't get safer, and at the moment they're not safe.
For each vehicle on display there's a $50 entry fee, with all the proceeds supporting the Westpac Rescue Helicopter service. The beneficiary of the event even made an appearance. The key issue being promoted on Transport Awareness Day is safety on the roads. The day also allows community members to meet truck drivers and dispel any myths that surrounds the industry and foster better relations between all road users. Adam Harper, NBN News.
"26-year-old at Suo Funabin staying at the Backpackers by the Beach hostel on the corner of from a top-storey window, falling 10 metres and landing head first. A passerby discovered him. How he fell remains a mystery. Last night at Suo had been celebrating with them downstairs at the hostel. He knew little English but had been looking forward to leaving for Byron Bay today. The 26-year-old surfer from
shirt on, talking to the solicitor. And see this bloke coming down. Gives him a much more bikery look, doesn't it?
Laid up on a physio's bed isn't what Asala Massey had in mind this week, but he'll spend the next few days there at least after tearing knee ligaments. Whether or not he'll run out against the Northern Spirit on Saturday night won't be made clearer until tomorrow.
It's too early to tell.
It adds to what's been a frustrating time for the Fijian. Both he and fellow striker John Bonavolia remained goalless after 4 rounds, even though the drought looked to have been broken against the Power. The goal was disallowed, with Massey deemed to be offside.
From my point of view, I think it was a clear goal, and to be pulled up for an offside, it was very soft from a referee's point of view.
Meanwhile, Bob Catlin says he'll be fined after receiving a cut cheek in an accidental knock from teammate Andy Roberts that required 6 stitches. But sitting last on the ladder, the whole squad hopes they all hit a change of fortune.
The luck's got to change, and once it changes, we'll be back up there.
Jim Callanan, NBN News.
Despite being a weekday midway through the school term, there are still dozens of teenagers on the streets of Raymond Terrace. But it's the youngsters' nighttime presence and an increase in crime and vandalism that has many locals worried.
What concerns me is you've got kids as young as 8 and 9 out there running around the streets in the middle of the night when they should be at home, in a bed.
Council last night voted to apply to the state government to enact the 1997 Child Protection Act, giving police the power to take children under 16 home to their parents. But some believe that's not the entire solution.
When they get home, what is there for them? And if it's an at-risk situation, you've got to have the support infrastructure, such as placement houses through docks, that you can put these kids.
Literacy and self-esteem building programs are also planned by Council in a bid to break up the youth gang mentality. Paul Lobb, NBN News.
Just a small group of families around this area that
Formed in 1992, the business Needle Technology marketed a device called Stick Stop, aimed at preventing needle stick injuries. But even the prospectus warned potential shareholders this investment is presently speculative, even risky. Unfortunately, a dozen shareholders who signed up with one of the then 3 directors of the company, Bruce Harrison, were not given a copy of the document. Today in Newcastle local court, the 51-year-old man from Valentine pleaded guilty to 12 counts of issuing an application for shares without a prospectus between April and November 1995. Harrison's barrister, John Connors, said his client was entitled to $10,000 as director of the company each year, but that he wasn't paid this every year and that when he was, it was in shares. He said Harrison wasn't out there flogging shares, that in all instances, people came to him. In all, $59,500 was never seen by a dozen investors when the company was deregistered and a liquidator was appointed in February 1997. Harrison will be sentenced late next month. Helen Kapelos, NBN News.
Yet another welcome home for Hunter and Central Coast athletes in Newcastle today. The local business community put its collective hands together for 8 Paralympians and Olympians, among them rower Daniel Burke, who's just hit the gym again.
You realise that you have to when you weigh and you put on 10 kilos in 5 weeks, so you really do have to get back into it.
Burke may have won silver in the 8s in Sydney, but he might just opt for the pairs in Athens.
We're just seeing who's about at the moment. A lot of guys are retiring after the results, so in December we'll find out who's in and who's out, and we'll start teaming up then and find out who goes fast.
One athlete who's not looking 4 years down the track though is Paralympic swimmer Gemma Dashwood. With a full set of medals from Sydney added to 3 golds and 2 silvers from Atlanta, she's now retired, but by no means slowing down.
I'm moving over to England at the end of this year and looking to pursue musical careers and probably more study and work and just life in general without swimming.
And no, that's not Michael Klim, but Justin Norris. The bronze medal winner was minus his famous locks, courtesy of a fundraising shave for Canteen, an organisation that helps kids with cancer. The appeal looks set to raise around $7,000.
Police say for the past 13 months, this 46-year-old man sold amphetamines out of a BP service station on Maitland Road at Cessnock. Detectives swooped this morning after several tip-offs and a 2-week undercover operation involving 40 police. They searched not only the business but an attached property behind it.
I feel personally it's significant in the Cessnock area and it should have a big impact on reducing the amount of drugs that are hitting the streets here.
Only small traces of speed were found along with scales and a minor quantity of cannabis, but police maintain the business was responsible for the mass distribution of speed. The owner of the BP says he can't believe the allegations against his tenant.
Total shock. Like I said, he's been a good customer up until sort of now. He paid his rent, paid for his fuel. He's a bit of a character.
Police also seized this T-shirt they believe is a blatant advertisement for the activities of the service station. The word marijuana intermingled with a McDonald's logo. The man of Swiss descent, accused of setting up the across-the-counter drug stop, lived in a home attached to the service station with his female partner and their 4 children. Their 36-year-old mother and her twin brother also charged with supply. 5 dogs living at the home taken away by council rangers. All 3 people charged will face Maitland Court tomorrow. Vanessa Trezise, NBN News.
The 19-year-old Western swimmer has been back in the Hunter for nearly 2 weeks now and claims that the high of winning at the ultimate test of athletes hasn't worn off yet. And today was a chance for him to say thank you to his behind-the-scenes team and support network, the Department of Community Services.
Everybody's been pretty good. I had a lot of little kids come up to me and go, "Oh, you're Stuart Park, aren't you? Can I have your autograph?"
The developmentally delayed swimmer was fostered out 17 years ago and has had to overcome more than just other athletes to win his Paralympic medals.
Well, a lot of people said I couldn't do it, and I just wanted to prove them wrong.
And at his hero's welcome today, the young star has already got the future in his sights.
Athens, here I come.
And a message for his admirers.
Go for it. If you see it in front of you, take it.
Adam Harper, NBN News.
It's a courtesy bus that gives patrons at local hotels and clubs the opportunity to leave the car at home, go out and have a few drinks and then get home safely. And I'd like to encourage
Especially with babies, just a few careless seconds can turn happy memories into a legacy of despair.
When children are drowning, they don't struggle. They just go under the water very quietly, and it happens very quickly without a struggle, and you won't even hear them.
Yesterday, prayers were all a young father could offer for his drowned baby. Leonie Forsyth warns bath time requires full attention, even if it means taking the phone off the hook or ignoring a knock at the door to avoid such a tragedy. No matter what equipment you use to bath your baby, KidSafe says there's only one way to make sure they're safe, and that's to watch them all the time.
It's like playing Russian roulette. If you go out of the bathroom and leave the child even for a few seconds, they're likely to fall under the water, and you won't know about it until it's too late.
The 11th hour on the 11th day of the 11th month. Bells toll across the Allied world in remembrance of those who paid the price for peace. In Newcastle, Danielle Wilcox spoke of her great-grandfathers who fought in the Great War and why that's important.
We live in freedom now, and if it wasn't for them, we might not have had the lifestyle that we do.
In World War I, 10,077 from the Hunter served. Sadly, 1,800 never returned.
It just brings back the memories and the sacrifices that these blokes really made.
In Redhead, Rear Admiral Peter Sinclair and 1,000 more dedicated a new war memorial that will remember the fallen well past this solemn day.
For a coach reported to be under pressure for his job, Lee Sterry looked far from trouble today. Preferring not to wind up at rumours his job is under question, Sterry is well aware his side needs results.
I'm not happy enough with the results myself, and I put my pressure on myself, so I don't need rumours and innuendo and garbage floating around town, and neither do the players.
He's already met with new owner Con Constantine and General Manager Jock Graham and says he's happy to have their ongoing support.
Well, I've got the contract for 12 months, and that's what they've basically spelled out to me, that I've got a contract for the 12 months and they're going to honour that. To me, there's no issue, but, you know, people talk about anything when you go through, 3 losses on the trot, all of a sudden everybody wants your job.
Sterry is more concerned about getting one for a new player he's meeting tonight.
I've got one in mind that I certainly want to speak to in the next 24 hours, and hopefully, if we can move on things quickly, we'll even have him on board by Friday.
As for Saturday night's draw with the Northern Spirit, Sterry couldn't fault keeper Bob Catlin, who had a hand in almost everything. Debut players James Kemp and Daniel McBreen also impressed.
Overall, I was very happy with Kempy's first game for a kid his age, and first game in top grade, and McBreen was outstanding up front.
Newcastle will play Canberra at home this Friday night.
With our ever-busy lifestyles, more and more people are turning to takeaway as an alternative to preparing meals at home. A new study by Hunter Valley Research Foundation shows 65% of people had purchased takeaway meals in the past year.
If you look at the workforce participation, there's a growing number of females in the workforce, so that's impacting on perhaps that they would be the people who would predominantly be preparing meals at home.
More people are also spending more money on dining out. An average Hunter household now spends around $32 each week dining out, compared to $19 10 years ago.
Our research was showing that that's increasing as well, and if you look at the industry as a whole, there's a definite increase in the number of establishments, the turnover for the industry, and also the number of people employed in that area.
And with the increase in the popularity of dining out comes more doggy bags. A new study has just revealed more than half of those people taking home doggy bags aren't reheating them properly, putting themselves at risk of contracting food poisoning. Each year, 4 million Australians become sick from food poisoning. Health authorities are urging people not to eat cold leftovers, as it increases the chances of bacteria infecting food. Tanya Carlisle, NBN News.
Daniel McBreen earned plenty of accolades in Saturday's clash with the Spirit, but he might just end up joining fellow United strikers on the sideline this week due to a hamstring strain.
If we've got to make another adjustment, that makes us the loss of 3 strikers within 5 games of the season, so it's not great for our front line at the moment.
Better news down the line though, with Glenn Sprod going the distance in Youth League last week. He's on standby to take McBreen's place in a 15-man squad. And United's defenders are full of confidence, having kept an opponent scoreless for the first time this season.
We're really disappointed with the previous games where, you know, we've let in some real silly goals. So that was one of our main aims in last weekend, to keep a clean sheet.
Another unblemished effort this weekend will give Bob Catlin his 100th clean sheet. Meanwhile, fellow veteran Andy Harper has resumed light training, but his broken toe will keep him sidelined for another 2 to 3 weeks.
Oh, he's shuffling around. He started off, running like Cliffy Young at the moment.